Hello everyone, it's Patrick here. Season 2 wishlist for Gath. Here we go. I will say Gath's my favorite faction. I've played them the most. So I have a pretty good understanding of what they are, what's good for them, what's bad for them, uh, how they would like to play, and all that. So I just have a better understanding on Gath than the other two factions. Uh, might not mean anything to you, but I'm just gonna say I have more detailed descriptions for Gath and the other factions, I think. So first off, let's go with Argog. The main thing I'd want change for Argog is to make them less mana intensive. Currently, Inner Vitality, Swift Strike, and Omni Slash all have a mana cost, so it makes taking multiple abilities really bad. It's usually currently the how Argog works is you take like reflexes or something, and then you take like one of his abilities. And if you take two, then you're planning on like I'm just gonna use this once and then use the other ability the rest of the game. But I can see how that's super annoying and like unfun considering it's your hero. Your hero's supposed to be really cool, doing cool things all the time, and the fact that Argog is so restricted on mana constantly. I think Argog can easily have just one of his abilities not have a mana cost or something. Preferably Swift Strike. I don't see why it needs to have a mana cost. Charging and piercing one for -1 movement, that seems like a fair trade anyway. Piercing one really only affects knights anyway, so I think this is a fair trade for a 2 gold ability. That's just me though. But I think him having being less mana intensive would be my change for him. Carthul. Uh, I really don't have an issue with Carthul. I think most of his abilities are fine. The only thing I'd want, like, I don't, it's not like something I would be fine. I would be fine if this wasn't changed, but I think Spell Shock could be changed or reworked. Simply put, you just take it when the opponent has a lot of mana users, and you don't even get to make any decisions. You just draft it, and then everything is up to your opponent to do. Do they continue drafting mana users? Where does the pings go? How to position themselves? Like yada yada. You really just draft it and that's it. I think Spell Shock could be more interesting than just you plop it down and it does stuff. But otherwise, I think all of his other abilities are pretty strong and not oppressive in any way. So I think Gath. I think Carthul's fine as is. I just think Spell Shock could be changed. Onto the units. Spike Color Hound. Again, if anything, I really don't know. Maybe pathing, but I think Spike Color Hound's fine as is. Every faction has a way of dealing with it. It's not super oppressive in any way, I don't think. So I think Spike Color Hound is fine as is. For Goblin Lackey, again, this is going back to there's talk that all the 2 gold, all the really cheap units should be changed or nerfed because there was an oversight how that they were just too gold efficient for what they do. So essentially, you could take like 4, 5, 6 of these 2 gold units, and they would still get their gold's worth back. For Goblin Lackey, I think just removing charging would be fine. It's still a 2 power unit with a really good ability. Uh, I don't see it needing charging, in all honesty. I think he's fine. Plus, Gath has plenty of charging anyway. It's not like they're gonna miss the Goblin Lackey not having charging. So I would do that. For Bomb, I would make him 1 movement. He's 2 damage for 2 gold at 3 range. Similar to Crossbowman. I think that's too strong. I think bomb should be more of a defensive unit. Uh, as in, if you come too close to me, you're gonna get punished because I'm gonna have a bomb ready to blow you up. So, if anything, I would have bomb be one movement. Flanker, flanker is complete dog shit. Um, Simply put, Goblin Flanker does one thing, and that's kill specifically 2 HP ranged units. And he doesn't do that very well because everything else kills him. If he's body blocked, he does nothing and he just dies. If the enemy range unit has 2 power, he does nothing and he dies. If he gets shot twice by a one range unit, he dies. If the enemy gets a shield or is moved or a plethora of other things, Goblin Flanker does jack shit. If I were to change anything about Goblin Flanker, I'd rather increase his health by 1, so he's at 3 health. So he can at least take a bit more punishment when he's trying to run in and start stabbing units. Or you could even give him like evasion 1, similar to the hunters in Sylvan. So that he takes less damage from range, so he doesn't take damage from range units. He can actually position himself in a way to where he can stab them. And your opponent has to like body block the flanker or send a unit out to kill him or something. But either extra health or evasion 1 is what I would do. I'm more keen on an extra health. I don't know why. I just think that'd be more. I just think that would be better. And even if he had the extra health, it's not like he's going to be incredibly good in melee either. He does 1 damage. He's going to die to literally everything, so I don't think he'd be that strong either. So, the 3 health or evasion 1, either or, I'd be happy. Archer, I think Archer's fine. Goblin Archer. Just a solid unit. I think everything about him is perfectly fine. I wouldn't change anything about him. For the Scourgs, I think for all the Scourgs, I would give him like magic resist 1 or like an immunity to burn. For magic resist 1, it's mainly just for like burn. Like there are some units that burn and stuff, and if you think about it, the Scourgs are literally demons. They should be immune to fire. If you even look at them, they're literally like standing on a volcano. You can even think demons are immune or slightly resistant to magic. I don't think magic resist 1 would break them. They have 1 HP. Literally, most magic abilities deal 2 damage anyway. So I don't think it increases their durability at all. The only thing that would make it not die is like Lightning Bolt 1 from Carthel and Burn. Like Burn 1 specifically. So it's not that much, but I think it could be something. I'm fine if the Scourgs don't get buffed, but if anything, I would give them Magic Resist 1 because it really doesn't do anything. It just makes them less susceptible to die to burn. But anyway, that goes for the Scourg Sorcerer 2. I'd give all the Scourgs Magic Resist 1. For the Grunt, I think Grunt is perfectly fine. I wouldn't really change him at all. Just think he's a solid unit. Similar to the Swordsman, I think this is what the Swordsman should be. I guess they have pikemen, so there's something there, but I don't know. I feel like the Swordsman at 5 gold's ass. If the Grunt was 5 gold, I wouldn't play him. So I think 4 gold's like the perfect spot for him. For the Crag Vulture, again, he's pretty ass. Simply put, he can only damage a charge. He can only charge a damaged unit, and 2 damage really isn't enough to finish a unit off. That's basically it. Like if you're damaged a unit, 2 damage is usually not enough unless it's a very, very like low health unit. But yeah, I think just the fact you can only charge damage units is really bad. There were some talks about making him being able to charge debuffed units too. I would think that would be fine. You'd have to add in more debuffs for Gath though, because they literally only have like one unit that can do it reliably, and that's the Warlock to the left of me, or left of him. So being able to charge damaged or debuffed units, I think, would be a pretty decent buff, because then you can like debuff an archer, and then the crack vulture can finish him off. But yeah, I think vulture, just the effect is just not reliable in popping off or in triggering. Vesuvian Warlock. A couple things. One, like, part of me doesn't even want to change him, because I think the only reason he's strong right now is the fact that he's Gath's only debuff. He's like, considering Gath doesn't have any protection, Vesuvian Warlock is kind of their only option. They have to root a unit, and that keeps their units alive. I think that's the only reason Warlock sees play. In my personal opinion, like, I don't really see changing anything on him, and then having it be a positive change. Um, Maybe uh, moving the silence, and so it's just the can't be healed or buffed, and increase the range or something. I don't know exactly, but I think it's weird, because I think Warlock's fine, but at the same time he's not fine, because Warlock's super strong right now, specifically because Warlock's like the only option Gath has in protecting their units and harming the enemy. I feel like that was kind of an oversight, and that he's the only one that actually can do that. So I don't know. Trench Digger. I would change the sentence in this. Keith. Uh, I realized that dig in, or it can't be moved by any effect as a part of dig in. I don't know why. I didn't thought about that. It's probably because of how the sentence worded out. This unit gains steadfast and evasion, and then there's a period, and then there's another sentence. So I just thought the steadfast and evasion was the only thing he got from dig in. So I don't know. I would change the sentence though. Otherwise, I think he's fine. Hatchling. I think hatchling is fine. I wouldn't change it. I think he's strong, but not too strong. Same for the wargs. I think the wargs are fine. I wouldn't really change them. Troll Shaman. I have a whole novel for what I would change for Troll Shaman. 1. Reducing his gold from 6 to 5. That would make the fact that the unit he buffs literally dying less painful, because he's less costs less gold. 2. I would increase his mana from 5 to 6. Most of the time you're buffing units in intervals of 2 and 3 buffs at a time anyway. Why does it have 5? It's such a weird number. Usually for Troll Shaman it's plus 1 power and charging, which is 2 mana. If you do that twice, you have 1 mana left over, and then that's awkward for that last mana. Or you're doing something like power charging piercing, or power charging steadfast, which is 3 mana. You can only do that once, so it's like, I can't do that once, so I better make sure it's worth it. So I would buff the mana up to 6. And lastly, it's you could change some of his buffs. Like, honestly, ignore steadfast. It could be changed or something. You could even add more buffs onto him. I don't know. If you need to fit more space, you can remove allied pathing. Probably doesn't need it anyway. But there's some talk of plus 1 movement. There's talk of spell proof. It can be debuffed or something. It's just Troll Shaman. The fact that his cost is so high in terms of mana, and the fact that the unit dies at the end, it really makes it hard to play Troll Shaman because you really need a super efficient target you're hitting and killing. Otherwise, Troll Shaman is just never going to be worth it. And there's just so many ways to play around it, whether it's Aegis, Tranquility, just moving the unit out of the way. Or just there's a plethora of ways to counter Troll Shaman that I think Troll Shaman could use quite a hefty buff in a couple categories. Just because even if you think he's strong now, just know that it's really easy to counterplay. Once your opponent knows how to counter this unit or how to play around it, Troll Shaman feels so terrible to play. I think you need to lessen the drawback of him if he doesn't work, because if you buff a unit and it doesn't do anything, it's like a game losing effect in its own. So plenty of things I would change about Troll Shaman. Troll Doctor, I would reduce its cost to 5, make him 5 gold. I think that's all I would do, just reduce this gold to 5. Vesuvian Archer. I just don't think the unit works. Like, Vesuvian Archer's strength is that he does good damage against slow units, like Crag Behemoth, Battering Ram, Thorn Elemental. I think Vesuvian Archer is great against those. The downside is that every faction is gonna run at least 2 or 3 damage, 3 movement chargers, and Vesuvian Archer dies to those extremely easy, and he never really gets a chance to do stuff. I really wouldn't know what to change about Vesuvian Archer, in all honesty. For one, I would change this passive here that dies to melee or trample, gets +1 burn. That's not doing anything. That's never done anything. If this burn somehow does something, please tell me. I would love to know, because every time I've seen it, it does nothing. Like, literally nothing. You're like, oh, I took a damage. Oh well. It's not a big deal. So I've never seen Archer do anything significant. I really don't know what I would change about Vesuvian Archer, because the suggestion I gave was like +1 health, but now when I think back at it, that would make them extremely hard to kill unless they have like an archer. But my solution would still be +1 health. Like, I don't know exactly what to do with them, but if anything, give him an extra health so we can at least sit somewhere and not immediately die. But yeah, Troll Berserker. I think Troll Berserker needs an entire rework. Simply put, I guess his passive is cool. He deals damage to himself and he gets extra powerful. He starts getting really angry and gets even more stronger. The problem with it is that it just doesn't work. Sure, he's a somewhat cheap 4 damage charger, but anything he can kill really isn't worth it, because you're losing a 7 gold unit too. And he's gonna charge in, kill something, and then he's just gonna die right back because he's at 3 health. Like I said, same problem with the Vesuvian Archer. Every faction has ways of having those 3 damage chargers, so he's gonna go in, kill a thing, and die. And so at best you get an even trade. The solution I had on keeping his theme that he damages himself to get stronger, the rework I would give is make Troll Berserker 4 power, 2 movement, 5 health. And then just give him allied pathing. Or pathing too. Either just something, just remove charging. Baseline. 4 power, 5 health, 2 movement. And then you make it so he deals damage to himself to gain charging for the round. Or something. Like, make it so he damages himself to gain charging. But otherwise he's just a really decent stat. Similar to Grunt. You'd actually kind of be really similar to Argog in a way, but 7 gold. Argog baseline would be like 2 gold, and he doesn't even damage himself. So I don't think it'd be too rough on him. I think Troll Berserker could easily have a decent rework in that scenario. Just remove charging, change his stats, and then make it so that if he does damage to himself, he gains a buff or something. No, then because right now I just don't think Troll Berserker is worth the 7 gold. He just second he goes in, he usually just dies. Also, he literally needs to damage himself 3 times to kill a knight. Like, what is that? What is that? The knight's 1 extra goal in Troll, but in order for Troll Berserker to kill the knight, he needs to damage himself 3 goddamn times. Like, what the hell is that? Skorg Sorcerer. Like I mentioned with the Skorgs, I think you could just have magic resist 1, just so that burns less effective. Also, I mean, I guess that's about it. I think Brutality can also be combinable. I don't know why it's not, to be honest. I guess so he has less time positioning himself, but I feel like it could easily be combinable. I don't know. It's just me, though. Disruptor. Many things I would change about him. The solution, the simply put, Vesuvian Disruptor is like the worst unit in the game, probably just the worst unit. For some reason, there's no real reason to take him. Like, sure, he has backstab and spellproof and mana burn too. He has all these cool keywords. In theory, he's strong, but in practice, he sucks ass. Spellproof is strong, but the problem with it is that you'd never want to target this guy anyway. He's that ass. Like, you wouldn't want to debuff him or deal damage to him over any other unit in the game. You would rather just ignore him. Backstab. Gath doesn't have any movement tricks, so he has to stand next to a unit and then hope they don't move so he can then stab them. It works really well with Sylvan because they have plenty of ways to move around, but in Gath it doesn't work, sadly. And Mana Burn 2. The conclusion I came up with is Mana Burn 2 is just not a good mechanic in this game. For 2 reasons. 1, all the units you'd want a Mana Burn die anyway. It doesn't affect most units you'd want to Mana Burn. Spellcasters, he stabs them and then they die. The only real thing Mana Burn affects is like heroes and like a couple melee units, like the Paladin or something. Sure, you can say he does good into Black Dragon. Sure, he can do that. Or he could just die to the Black Dragon, because Black Dragon has 5 power and this guy has 5 health. He could just get eaten by a Black Dragon. So the solution I had was, first, give him an extra health. I think he really needs an extra health so he stands out from the other units. Specifically because if you compare him to like Ranger, the Sylvan counterpart to this unit, Ranger just does way better in literally every scenario. So I think Gath, since he's Gath, I think he can easily have an extra health and not be incredibly broken. And 2, I would actually swap Mana Burn 2 with Overheat, minus the silence. So Vesuvian Disruptor's Overheat is, of course, he gets the silence, but I would specifically the second part. Cannot be healed or buffed this round. I think if Disruptor had that as an attack, like he stabs someone and then they can't get buffed or healed, I think that would make Disruptor incredibly good in specific matchups. Because then they can't get healed, so then you can threaten to kill, so they have to move that unit out, or they're like, "Oh, I can't end anywhere near the Disruptor because the Disruptor will then stab me. Since I can't heal it, or buffed, I cancel or Aegis it or something, and then he'll just get stabbed." And then Spellproof would actually do something, because that would be a unit I would want to debuff or something. Yeah, so I would swap out Mana Burn 2 for Overheat. Specifically, they can't be healed or buffed. Then I would increase his health by 1. I think if you did that, I think he would be in a pretty good spot. I don't think he'd be broken. Let's keep in mind, Gath still has no movement options. And 8 gold is pretty high up there for a unit one like Battle Fury or Troll Shaman buff, so I don't think you'd want to do that. But I think that would put him in a pretty good spot. Hellbear. The only thing I change about Hellbear is Burn. I don't think Burn as an unhit is just a good mechanic in general, because you learn pretty early on that taking retaliation damage is really bad, because you hit something, you take damage, and then your opponent goes, and they can then take your Hellbear. And so essentially, Burn 2 is only useful in a few scenarios, and all of them are like bad, except for like one. If Hellbear gets attacked and Hellbear doesn't die, he applies Burn, but opponent wouldn't do that. Why would they hit the Hellbear and take retaliation damage? That's stupid. They wouldn't do that. So Burn just won't apply there, because no one's ever going to do that. Scenario 2 is Hellbear hits unit, and the unit doesn't die. Unit he's attacking doesn't die. Again, Hellbear's taking retaliation. You really don't want that. And your opponent can easily just remove the burn and heal it or something, so really not a very good big upside for burn there either. The third option is if Hellbear's like 1 HP and you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna hit something anyway. That's like the only scenario in which is good. But even then, they can just heal it or move the burn or something. The only scenario in which burn is good is if the Hellbear is about to die and they don't have a healer. That's too much to ask for. Oh, for the burn specifically. Hellbear is good no matter what, but the burn specifically, those are like the only scenarios. So I would change Hellbear, or at least the burn specifically, where he no longer has burn 2. He doesn't apply burn on hit. Instead, you could make it so that he applies burn 1 when he roars. I think that would be pretty cool, because then you can roar something, move it back, and then you apply a burn. And then that's just a little bit of extra things the enemy's healers have to deal with, which Gath likes. I could also give like magic resist 1, same thing for those Scourgs, just make it so that burn's less effective on him. Don't have to, but I think that'd be cool. If anything, I much prefer changing burn to apply burn 1 on his roar, and not on hit, which is what I would do. Slingshot. I think Slingshot's fine. I just think all of the supporting units need a change. As pretty much the only person in the world that plays Slingshot. He's fine. He just needs better support. That's about it. Crag Wyvern, I think is fine. I wouldn't change him. Manticore, I think Manticore is fine. I wouldn't change it. Same for Cave Troll. I think Cave Troll is fine. I wouldn't change him. For Charbelcher, I have a suggestion that I've been giving people. Essentially, it's Belch having an option to be combinable, but only target 1 unit. So, let's say I'm here. There's a Carthul here. So I could either Belch in place and have the same effect. All adjacent enemies take 3 magic damage. Or I could combine it to where I can move 1 hex. I should state, combinable with 1 less movement, similar to Lightning Bolt. Combinable with 1 less movement. So that I could then move a hex and then use Belch, but instead of it being an AoE of everything around him, I can only target 1 enemy. So it's kind of like a pseudo charge. Because the main issue Tribelcher has is that it's slow. It's really, really slow. And it dies really easily to physical damage. So I think if you could just position it in a way to where physical damage isn't a big issue, like here, and then so you can either use it for like a play where it goes in the middle, then it has a big AoE belch going on, or you could place it here so that it can has this area where it can threaten just 3 damage in a way, if that makes any sense. So I think that would make Charbelcher quite useful because Charbelcher really doesn't see play. Magic Resist Infinite's cool and all, but most people just won't hit it. They'll go near it. They'll just run away from it. So I think Charbelcher could use just a bit of mobility, specifically with Belch. The Minotaurs. I'm gonna group the Minotaurs together because they have the same suggestion for them. The Minotaurs need 3 movement charging. Plain and simple. Minotaurs don't see any competitive play for that simple reason. If you're playing this for fun, go right ahead. I don't care what you do, but if you're trying to have a competitive list against someone who plays this a lot, like Gravy, High Gravy, Moon, High Moon, Empire, High Empire, like if you're gonna go against any of those 3 people who are 3 of the best players right now, you're not gonna run Minotaurs because Minotaurs are too slow. They're just gonna put a unit here at 3 range away, like a knight, and then in order for you to hit that knight, you have to waste a whole round just moving next to it or just moving a hex up. And then next round they'll just run away to here. Oh, look, now he's 3 ranges away from both. Oh, cool. It's so easy to just make it so the Minotaurs just can't do anything. It doesn't make any sense either, in my opinion. Like, why can the other 2 factions, who have mobility tricks and offensive buffs and all that, how come they get these super powerful 3 movement 4 damage chargers with good health and hard to kill, but Gath doesn't? Doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. And then same thing for like the Hellbear change, how I don't like on hit burn. I would also change it for Minotaur. For Fire Fist Minotaur, I would just give him burn trample. Similar to Ironhoof, where Ironhoof tramples and does 2 physical damage. I would make Fire Fist deal burn damage, where when he tramples over a unit, he would apply burn 2. Yeah, that's just what I would do. That just so they'd be similar. They're still pretty different. In fact, this guy does magic damage, this guy does physical. That's really the changes I think the creator wanted, what people want. So I think burn trample for Fire Fist would be a cool way for him to apply burn without killing himself. And then just give him 3 movement charging, please. They really need it. They're really cool units that sadly just got the short end of the stick. And then Crag and Behemoth, I think they're both fine. I wouldn't change them. I think they're both strong but not oppressive. People would say Black Dragon's oppressive. I just think it's the current meta. I think once the meta changes, Black Dragon will be in a situation where he's fine. So those are my Gath. That's my Gath wish list. And now I'm going on to Sylvan. See you in the next video.